Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna get started in a little while. Just waiting for Jason from Bond Street to come in, and then after he's good to go, we're all set. And then if anybody has questions as I'm going through this, you can just pop them into the chat. I'll be checking it every now and then just to see, because when I share my screen, it's gonna be hard to see anybody. So just as a heads up. And guess what, guys? It's Friday, so we made it another week.
Chris, are we signing into Command?
Yeah, I'm gonna be going through that in a little bit. You'll see.
Okay. I didn't know if you had started just yet.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have my screen shared. Just waiting for Bond Street to come in here. I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes and then I'll get started. If Jason comes in, I'll just I'll take like an intermission or something. And again, thanks for coming into this class today. I know it's jam-packed with a lot of stuff, so thanks. See, we got about 40 people in here now. It's pretty awesome. Let's see what we have going on here. Give it another couple minutes. And then again, for anybody who just popped into here, if you're going to be watching Al's call after this, he has a new link for it. We expanded the room so more than 100 people can come in. I'll be posting the link in the chat, and then before the class ends, I'll also kind of remind everybody, and then I'll stick around in here for a little while. If you're if you're popping in and out, I'll give you the link over to that new room. We've been reaching that 100 people cap every day, so that's awesome. But all right, I don't see Jason yet, but again, I'll pause for a second when he comes in. We'll get started, and then yeah. So this is going to be on customizing your consumer experience. And a lot of the stuff that you can customize for the consumer app specifically can all be done within Command right now. If you've been playing around with your app at all, you can see that there's some features in there that you can actually access through Command specifically, like customizing your guides, setting up save searches for your clients, and then things like customizing your bio and all that stuff is going to be kind of roped into your agent site as well. So what I'm going to go over today is how you can access those pieces to customize. And then I will just show you some of how the app actually functions if you haven't actually used it yet. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I'm just going to mute anybody if they're kind of popping in just so we don't get any feedback. And again, I'll be taking questions as I kind of move through here. I'll be monitoring the chat. All right, cool. So let me get this shared, and just if you can see my screen, just give me like a thumbs up or something so I know. Cool. All right, I see some thumbs up in there. Awesome. So we are going to start in command, and I'm going to go to agent.kw.com. Again, with command, it's always going to be the same username and password that I use for pretty much all of my KW tools. And just bear with me, my computer's been really slow today, so if I'm kind of like bogging down for a little bit, it's my computer being annoying. So just as a disclaimer, but I am on command right now. I'm just going to log in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. Let me see what that chat was. Oh, hey, Reza. I'm in command, and the first piece of the consumer app that your client is going to see is basically your profile. So when they connect with you as an agent, the first thing they're going to have access to is essentially the search, the guides. They'll have access to any collections that they've created, but then they'll also be able to pull in information about yourself. So I think the most important piece of this to do first is getting your marketing profile filled out. And I'm going to do that in my settings here. So I'm going to move into settings. And what I'm going to do is navigate down to where it says connect settings right here. And I'm going to go to marketing profile. So from here, what you can see, I have my profile filled out. It's basically just information about myself, you know, my headshot, my bio, contact information, and then there's some information about my my market center. And then I'll have some additional features like my social media profiles and then my app link here. So why this is important is because when you fill this out and you save it, basically any sort of marketing branding that you're doing is going to auto-populate with this profile information. So that also includes your consumer app, and it also includes your, you know, landing pages that you put together, agent site pages. Essentially, any piece of your consumer experience will have information about yourself populated from this marketing profile. Now, one other tip that I have, and this was just from my own experience and playing around with this a bit, is making sure that you have use my information, the brand my website checked on. I noticed this because when I was working with an agent and their consumer app, their profile information wasn't auto-populating from this marketing profile. So what I had to do was I had to make sure this was checked on. And then I also have to make sure that she went through the Kelly guide for the agent site. So that's one thing I'm also going to show you today, in addition to some of that consumer app settings. So again, this is probably the most important piece of the consumer experience that you want to make sure is essentially filled out first. All right, so I'm going to go back to my home screen here. I'm going to hit home, and I saw something pop up in chat. Let me just check out what that was. Jason just popped in. All right, I'll give Jason a minute since we kind of just had a little bit of an intro there. Jason, if you're in here now, let me just stop my screen share and I'll let you say a little word from Bond Street.
Sure. Hey, how are you guys? Just wanted to, you know I've been on a couple calls with you guys and mentioned some information about mortgage relief. If you have any friends, family, any past clients that you're reaching out to and they're concerned about making mortgage payments, just some helpful information. First thing that they should do is contact their servicer, so whoever they're making their payments to. that's who they want to contact, and they just want to, you know, question them in regard to, you know, what are the steps in order to enter a forbearance program. Forbearance is different than forgiveness. Forbearance means that you're just temporarily delaying your mortgage payments during, you know, your financial hardship. They do have to prove financial hardship. So if there's a loss of income from, you know, either if they're married, it could be from either spouse. They would just have to prove that there's a loss of income, and then, you know, they would be able to apply for forbearance. As I mentioned before, forbearance is different than forgiveness, because forgiveness, you would not have to, you know, pay or make up those payments. With forbearance, you actually do have to make up the payments. Basically, what they do is either, what would happen is when you enter the forbearance program, you would agree, you know, that you're not going to make payments. Nothing will impact your credit report. They will not report anything to the credit bureaus. Also, no late fees, no penalties, nothing like that. When the hardship is over, you'll have to contact the servicer again, and then you'll basically work out a permanent agreement, either by a lump sum payment, or it would be, you know, basically increasing your mortgage payments by just a little bit to cover that difference. The other thing that they're doing is they're allowing for loan modification, and that's typically only available under a disaster, you know, natural disaster, but the government is allowing that. So, you know, there is the possibility that once all said and done, that, you know, a loan modification is sort of like a refinance where they might just adjust your term a little bit. So it would almost be like they're adding additional payments or additional months onto your term to keep your payment the same. So that's just, you know, a little bit about that. Anybody have questions or concerns in regard to those, to that information?
There is a question in chat from George Santiago. He's asking, are they doing that small increase? I hear it's all due at once.
So sometimes it is, they will just do it as a lump sum payment, but you can also, you know, negotiate something different where, you know, you're breaking it out over payments. And as I mentioned, you know, a loan modification also, you know, they're able to do loan modifications with this. So, you know, that was typically only available in a disaster, natural disaster scenario, but they're making that available as well.
Cool. Anybody else have questions for Jason?
Just if no one else has any questions, I'll also mention just on the bright side that, you know, what does this mean? What is the potential impact, you know, after this passes? So what, you know, the professionals or the experts are saying is that this should actually improve the outlook for housing once we recover from this, because of all the liquidity that's been pumped into the market. So just something to keep in mind that, you know, there might be a silver lining to this, and that would be a positive impact on housing due to the liquidity that's the Fed has been pumping that into the market. We're seeing the effects of that as, you know, early as today. Rates have come down from yesterday to today. The rate priced something at 3.625. Today it was at 3.25 on a conventional loan. I would tell you that VA, FHA, they're really, because they're government programs, basically FHA is like a government insurance program, right? At this point, it's really hard to find a rate for FHA or VA loans. So right now, like, we're really focusing more on conventional rate and term refinances, traditional purchases, but anyone looking to pull cash out, now is really not a good time. And anyone looking to do something that's not conventional, like, you know, hard money or like non-QM stuff, like using bank statements, any state-run programs like down payment assistance, you know, those you might have some trouble with. But yeah, other than that, you know, closings, we're finding getting some forgiveness from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac with respect to closings. They're loosening up on appraisals. The biggest hurdle right now is, wet docs, wet signing documents. That has been a little bit of a hurdle because there are some documents that still need to be wet signed during the closing. And that requires, someone to either have a printer and be able to sign it and then send it back, mail it in, or, people to be in person. So, those are some of the challenges with the closing.
Jason, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Sure, yeah. Can hear
Okay.
you.
My question is, are the underwriters being much more stringent than they were in previous months because we had such a strong market January and February? Are they looking for more than 20% down? Are they looking for more documentation than usual?
I wouldn't say more documentation than usual. I have heard today that underwriting might be raising the minimum credit scores and also might be looking at, they want people to have more skin in the game in certain circumstances. So today was actually the first day that, I saw I don't think it would be with respect to loan to value or down payment, but more or less debt to income. For example, like FHA loan, typically you can go up to 54% DTI, but, with compensating factors, like if they have, reserves, or if they have a strong employment history, or if they have a second job that we know about, we just can't count the income. We can actually stretch their DTI a little bit, but in under these circumstances, it's really, 50% max DTI on the back end for FHA loans. And even conventional, they're tightening up on that. But the one thing I will say is that for loans in the pipeline, one issue we're facing is that if someone has to go on unemployment and, they're in the middle of closing a loan, that's going to impact or delay their closing. Because, if they're on unemployment, we can't use their regular income in order to, qualify and close the loan for them. So those are some of the challenges that we're facing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
We do have one more question in chat here from Sherry Marino. She's asking, I think she might have phrased it wrong, I'm not sure. What did rates fall from to 3.25%? Still a great time to refinance?
So for conventional, if you, let's say you have a conventional loan, you have equity in the home and you have a great credit score, then yeah, as long as you're not trying to pull cash out, definitely still a good time to refi. For example, I bought my home in October of 2018. My rate was 4.375. And, now I'm looking to reduce it. As of today, I could probably cut a point off of my interest rate. So I would say, if you have equity, good credit score, conventional loan, and it's just rate and term, now's a good time. And you can still, with the rate and term refinance, if you have enough equity to refi and then also pay off some debt, that would, as long as you're paying off the loans at closing and you're not taking cash out, it would still be considered rate and term. So, if you know anyone that's looking to refi, reduce their interest rate and potentially pay off some debt, that's still a possibility with a conventional loan.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think there's any other questions in here. I don't see.
I have a question.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. So my question is, if somebody doesn't have very good credit, with now a lot of people are under unemployment, but they're on temporary unemployment. Is there something where we can take a letter from the employee if you're working for a corporation and say, hey, this employer is on temporary unemployment and we do plan to hire them back, and utilize that to refinance the mortgage? Would it work?
No, from what I'm seeing right now, it wouldn't work. I actually have a scenario where I'm working with someone who works for the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra, and they have a history of receiving unemployment for the last 2 years. Basically, they work on like a per service agreement, so their salary is guaranteed, but they don't get paid consistently throughout the year. So during those dark periods, they're allowed to go on unemployment, much like a union employee.
Which is what I
and
am.
so,
Okay.
okay, yeah. So basically, you know, if you have a history of receiving unemployment and you're now out on unemployment, like furlough, then essentially we might be able to use your unemployment income. And what we would do is we would average that over the last 2 years as well as year to date. And then we
What if
might
you
be
don't
able
have a
to use
history?
that. If you don't, then we wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
Cool.
But what we are doing, just so you know, like for anyone, you know, looking like with respect to refis, what we're doing is a lot of the people that are in this situation, what I'm advising them to do is actually go through the process, let us set up your file. And then this way, when you do start working again, things go back to normal. Now everything is in place. We could lock your rate, put a short-term lock on it, which will give you much better, a much lower rate. And we would be able to, you know, basically move forward with the refinance immediately after you regain employment. So, you know, the only thing that we can do in a scenario like this is prepare and make the best of it. And that's really what this has given us, maybe a little bit more time to prepare for certain things so that when we are back to work and things start to normalize, we can, you know, capitalize on whatever opportunities there.
Cool. All right. So I think that was, I think we're all set.
All right, great. Well, thank you guys. If you need anything, please just let me know. Any questions, families, friends that, you know, have any questions or are concerned about something, just let us know. We're here to help.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you guys.
All right, cool. So just kind of jumping back into it, and when I started, we had went into Command, and we also were going over the marketing profile. So again, usually when I start with the consumer experience, I like to make sure that marketing profile is completely filled out because as I mentioned before, a lot of that information that I put into my marketing profile is going to populate into my consumer experience. So like my agent site and my consumer app, and then also my, you know, anything like landing pages that I do, neighborhood searches, those are all going to be connected with this. So it's always the first thing I like to go over before I get started with the consumer, the consumer experience customization. All right, so I'm back on my home screen, and this is where we left off. Now, for any sort of settings that I want to work on for my consumer app or my agent site, I want to go down to the consumer applet that's all the way at the bottom, so you can't miss it. It's always the last one. So I'm going to click on that real quickly. I saw a question in chat earlier from Lisa, if you're under 2 market centers. I don't have the answer to that right now, but I can definitely find out. But as far as I know, it's only going to allow you to have essentially 1 connected at a time. But I will find out if I can get more information on that. All right, so I want to go down here where it says consumer. And this is my consumer, kind of like my consumer dashboard. So I have access to things like my landing pages, agent site pages. So when I'm going in to build out things that I want to have on my website, I can use the agent site pages here. And then I also have a newer function that if you haven't been in Command in a little bit, which you should have been, they have a guide builder now. And I'm going to go over the guide builder briefly after we go through some of the initial Kelly Guide settings. So how do I access those Kelly Guides? There's a couple ways you can currently do it. The one way that I highly suggest is if I go to here on the right where it says Site and App Settings, if you click on that, and if I go to, I'm just gonna click in the URLs, the general tab actually like crashes my computer for some reason. So I always try to quickly click into URLs. But anyway, as you can see here under URLs, this is also super useful because it gives you access to quick links. So you can see my current website domain, and you can also see my app URL. Currently, you can't customize the URLs. I believe they're gonna add some sort of functionality to that later down the line to customize this URL. Right now, it's going to be static, and it is the same one you had since the old consumer app, so it's not going to have changed. What this actually does now, though, is it generates a landing page for you. So you don't even have to create this. It does it for you automatically. And this landing page is actually something you can send out to your clients, or you can post it on your social media. You can email it. You can also work with some of the smart plans, which I'll go over in a little bit as well. But this current landing page is customized to my app specifically. So if somebody goes and uses the download buttons, or if they go and enter their phone number, they'll have access to my app specifically. And just want to make sure everybody's muted so I don't get feedback in here. So I'm back in my consumer settings again, as I said. Now there's two options here. Learn more with Kelly Guides, and there's two different options. There's an agent site one, and there's also a consumer site one. The one I'm going to do first is my consumer settings. And then I will go into the agent site settings as well, because I think that's also important because they both essentially work together. But we'll do the consumer one first because it doesn't take very long to do, you'll see. If I click on continue, it's going to bring me into the Kelly Guide. And if you're familiar with the Kelly Guides, basically what it is, it's kind of like a wizard. It's just like a funny name for a wizard. So Kelly Guides help you. They kind of like guide you through the initial process of getting things set up, whether it be your agent site or your consumer settings, or things like smart plans. These Kelly Guides are here to help you out with that. And I find them very useful because they literally just walk you through step by step. So if you're having trouble doing it beforehand, the Kelly Guides kind of make it a little bit easier to do. And it also outlines what you can expect to get out of the guide. So you see here, setting up your KW app, customizing your guides, and then marketing your app, because you can do some additional marketing pieces with this as well. So let's hit get started. Now, once you hit get started, there's going to be additional supplemental material from KW Connect. And I highly suggest going into KW Connect at least once a day. They have so many awesome live streams on there, so many awesome videos on demand for just about anything in regards to the technology. You know, they have a lot of classes, you know, not even just for technology, but essentially everything. So KW Connect Live is awesome. All right, so let's hit next. Now these settings here is going to be fairly basic, because right now what you can mainly do here, and it's kind of hard to see, it's a little arrow there. If you click that arrow, it's going to give me the ability to switch out this hero text, which would be this. Right now I haven't seen it actually update yet, but you do have the ability to actually kind of put in additional text there if you wanted. And then it also gives you quick access to those app links again, as I mentioned. So basically here, you'll see I have my app URL and text code. I just saw a hand raise. Sherry, you got a question? You can unmute yourself if you want. You there? Okay, I'll keep moving forward, but I'll come back to that in a second. So again, as I mentioned, this particular setting here, this is step 2. This is just going to basically help you set up the landing page and just give you some quick access to these text and URLs. You save and continue. Now this is where you can build out your guides. So by default, you already have a buyer and seller guide created for you, and you also have an introduction also created for you. Now, what this guide builder helps you do is it helps you essentially outline how you want the guide to look, and then you can then go back into the guides later and add additional content. I'll show you that as well. So under setup here, you're going to have the ability to choose from 2 different templates, which is the buyer guide or seller guide. I'm only going to do the one because they're essentially both set up the same way, but just so you can see how it looks when you're doing this. If you go to buyer's guide, and if you go down to the bottom here, it's going to say next. I just want to click that. And the first thing it lets you actually do is your timeline, kind of like intro. Now, I haven't seen where this intro is actually placed just yet. I think it's going to be placed within the app itself once the transactions essentially started. Right now, I don't believe this appears anywhere yet, but it will shortly. So they do give you the ability to customize this a little bit. And right now you can just see mine. I use some of the generic text that they already had, and I just kind of put my name in there instead. I think this used to say Paul. And then once we hit next again, this is where you can actually start to kind of build out your guides. So this is the buyer guide right now, and you can see here, it gives you some of the steps involved, like probably the most common steps, starting your search, getting pre-approved tour homes, making an offer, executing contracts. Now the one that says get claim history report, I actually put in myself. So I will show you how I did that. CHA1 as well, I did that one. If you're curious how I did these, or if you want the templates that I did, I can send those to you. So just let me know. But I will show you what they look like after you create them, because I'm going to go through the app in just a few minutes. So again, with the guides here, you can actually rearrange them on the side. There's little drop-down menus. You can see here I can customize the text. I can also customize the subtitle and the image. So I know I've spoken to some agents already about this. They're actually putting in like their own custom images. Just to make it more personalized to them specifically. So that's the idea of these guides. And then there's these little buttons on the right-hand side. This is where you can actually kind of drag and drop to where the ordering is. I'm going to leave those defaulted. And I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Now, once you hit next, it's going to generate the guide on the right, or the left, sorry. And this is going to give you an outline of what that guide currently looks like. Again, I'm not going to go through the listing one because it's just going to be the same process, but I just want to show you how it looks when you're setting one up from default here. So let's close that out. I'm going to hit next again. Now, the final step here, which is the smart plan, this is going to allow you to actually promote your app from within Command. So this is going to give you the ability to create a custom smart plan that's going to send out an email. And you can see here, day one, it's going to send out that email to anybody that you put it on. It'll also set up a text message. Now, if you're not using Twilio, this will be a reminder task that will be set up into your command dashboard, and you'll also get a notification for that. Otherwise, if you're using a service like Twilio, you will have this automatically sent out, and you can see here, this is what the message currently looks like. You probably noticed these things here where it says agent first name, agent team name. Those are going to be what they're calling merge tags, and the merge tags are going to be pulling from your profile. So they're not going to look like that when they send out, just as a heads up. Now, one other thing you can also do once you have this created is you can start adding people to it. It might be a little hard to see, but there is a plus people sign here. And then when you click that, that's where you can actually start going into your list of people, and you can add people into that smart plan. And you can also filter it by text. I can also filter it by smart views. Or I can go ahead and select all that are currently in this list, which would go by the first 20. So once you're done with that and you hit next, it's going to essentially say you have completed your Kelly guide for this particular client settings. And then it just gives you a few other things that you can go through, sharing it with your sphere, creating a neighborhood video. And then you can also do additional things like crafting sponsored Facebook posts. Cool. I'm going to go back into the chat real quick, see if there's any questions. So it says, Rhoda says, my consumer icon is not available. How do I make it available? Oh, and I said, never mind. I think it's my internet. Okay. I was going to say, also check your settings. If you're in Chrome right now, I noticed this with Chrome specifically. If your screen is maximized to 100, it might cut off this icon here. So you want to just make sure that you zoom out a little bit so you can get it to show up on your screen. If you have an old computer like myself, that's because my resolution is really low. But in any case, I see here Annie post. Can we add new pages to our websites now? Yes, you can. I'll go over that in a second. Luann, should we wait then before we share with our buyers? What do you mean by that?
I don't think you have to wait. It's just if you want to personalize it, then you should do that.
Yeah,
But you can use the.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say you can definitely send it out whenever you want, because the buyer and seller guides are already built in there for you.
Just make sure you look at the name though, because it has a default guy's name or something. So you don't want to send out that.
Right. So yeah, I'll show you another way that you can actually customize them after you build it out from that Kelly guide. Yanni, how do you load listings into landing pages? That might be for another class, but if you message me after this, I can go over that with you. Anyway, with the guides, they also have a guide builder option back inside of the consumer app here as well. And this kind of gives you more of like an expanded view of them. And as I mentioned before, I did put in some custom ones myself. So like here I have two different versions that I can choose from right now. If I choose this little pencil icon here, this is where I can then go back in and I can build those guides out and I can rearrange them. This is a little bit more interactive here. That's why I like it in here a little bit better, because I can click on these and change it out. And you also notice here I have access to the workspace text. When I go into the app, I'm going to show you my app screen. When you click into these steps as a client, it expands the text inside and it shows you, what exactly that step has. It's kind of like an expanded summary. So you can type those out as well. Now, I also made a custom one here, and you can do that by hitting Add Step. You can put in a card title. You can put in card subtitle, which is kind of like a brief summary of what that card will be. And you can also add a image. Now, like I mentioned, I created one for CHA here. And this one's just saying, get home insurance with CHA. I have a little card summary there. And then I popped in a template. So it's essentially a letter with some of the information for Tim Fox. Again, if anybody wants access to this particular step, I can definitely send that over to you. I have the templates. Let me know later on and I can send it. Or I can create a video to show you how to do it. Cool. Yeah, I see a bunch of people asking for that. Awesome. All right, cool. So I want to make sure I have some time to be able to show you just how first I want to set up my agent site settings. And then I'm going to go into my consumer app, and then we should be able to get finished. So again, with the site and app settings here, I mentioned that there was 2 options available. And if I go learn more with Kelly Guides, there is an agent site Kelly Guide as well. Now, I'm not going to go all the way through this because I've done classes on this before. And you can reach out to me if you need help setting up your website. But essentially with the agent site, you have 3 steps as well. The first step is choosing your subdomain. Because we already filled out our marketing profile, that's already going to auto-populate. Style and theming, you don't have too many options right now. So you have that as step 2. And then for step 3, you have the ability to create some content for your website. And then step 4 is just additional KW Connect materials. So I do want to just share my screen on my phone so you can see the app now, because once you have done most of the customization within your command dashboard for the consumer applet here, that's going to translate over into your consumer app. So let me just open up my QuickTime here, and I'm going to share my app screen so you can see. And just bear with me. As I mentioned, my computer's a little slow today, so I'm just going to try to do this for you. And there we go. And if anybody can just let me know if they see my phone screen once it loads. Again, sorry, my computer's a little slow. So now you should see my phone screen. Yeah, can you all see it? Awesome, cool. So this is now sharing my phone screen. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you how the consumer experience looks from the client end. So when you're sharing this with your client, we want to see all those things we just did inside of their experience now. So the consumer app is this one here. If you haven't already seen it, I'm going to click on that KW button. And I'm just going to close out this chat window for a second. Sorry. Once your client opens this up, this is the first thing they're going to see. They're going to see this search box. And the search box is going to geolocate them to essentially anywhere that they currently are. Now, the functionality, it looks very similar to, you know, if you're on like the Zillow app or Realtor app. Basically here, the first thing they open up is my search screen. And they can search by current location, they can search by town. If I do by current location, you'll notice here that it also gives me neighborhoods, which are those blue boundaries. And one tip that I actually learned the other day is if I click out this X, it will remove those boundaries, which it's currently not doing, but I thought it was. Anyway, if you remove that, it's supposed to remove the boundaries as well, which it doesn't look like it's doing, but it's okay. Now, essentially with the search, very similar feel to, you know, the Zillow experience. I can open this up, gives me information about the listing, things like driving and commute times, school systems in the area, mortgage calculators, and then you also notice some nearby homes. And then again, because it has my branding on it, you can see at the bottom here. So if you recall when I filled out my marketing profile, this is the information that's going to appear. Now I'm just going to click out of this. On the bottom here, you're going to notice a couple other icons. Let me just maximize this. You're going to notice a couple icons here. We have a feed button, a guide button, saved, and then my profile. So when your client signs in, they're going to have their own profile set up. And what they can also do is if you click you, you'll notice that it's connected with me as an agent. Now, if I wasn't already connected with him as an agent, he also has the ability, he or she has the ability to search for an agent. They can change an agent. So I can essentially do a search on here for, any agent in the system. And you'll notice here that that agent pops up. His profile information is also here. And if I wanted to connect with him, I would hit that get in touch button. Now, one thing I can also do is they can check out my agent profile here, which also has my information. Again, when I filled out my marketing profile earlier, this is the information that's going to populate in there. So my bio, contact information, my preferred email address, and then things like my office information. Cool. So let me go back. If we go into, one thing that I actually really like about this is the ability to go through the guide. So if you recall before, I set up the guide for this particular app. And the guide right now, as you can see, it's showing me the steps for the buying side and also the selling side. So these two are already going to be built into your app. And you have the ability to customize these. So if I go into buying right now, and you might have noticed this here, there's a little checkbox there. That means that that step would have been completed from the agent end, and they checked it off for the client. Now, if I scroll down here, you're going to notice that I have those steps that we actually customized. One was get claim history report. And this, again, this is also connected with CHA. If anybody wants that one, I will send you the script. And we also have the Carnegie Home and Auto one that I set up. And you can also see here, it essentially has all those steps that we would have went through the Kelly guide before. And just to expand this one, you can see here, it has this nice little letter already preset. So when your client's moving through those stages and they get to the home insurance part of this, they have the option for the CHA, and they also have the Keller mortgage one as well, or they call it Keller covered rather, sorry. Now for any sort of saved collections or saved searches, they have the ability to go through here where it says saved. And I do have one already created for myself. It's just called Chris's Favorites. This is essentially properties that I would have hearted on the listing search. So if I go back here from the client end, there's a little save button there. And if you click that save button, that's going to allow them to create a kind of like a saved property search. And you see here, they can save it into their collection, and then that's going to add it into their collection. And you see here, there it is. Cool. So one other thing that I also like to show, you might have noticed before there was a setting in there for the commute times. So under where it says My Accounts, there's an option here called Places. And under Places, the client can actually go in and add places of interest that they might be traveling to. So if I'm commuting into the city for work and I'm looking at properties, I might want to know how long it's going to take me to get to, let's say, like Penn Station, for example. And I already had it added in there that you can see. I'll just delete the one. So that would be some of the customizations that the client can do within their app as well. Now, when they want to share the app, or if you have it installed with yourself and you want to share the app, you can hit that Share the KW app button. And you'll notice here that I have a link already pre-generated to me as an agent. And I can send it off to whomever I want. Let me just log out real quick and I'll show you how the login process is, because I think I've been getting some questions around that as well. Let me just check the chat real quick. George is saying it's very blurry. Is that anybody else getting the same issue? Okay, maybe it's just my connection. Sorry.
Yes, it's blurry.
Is it really blurry?
Mm-hmm.
Dang, okay. Let me see if I turn off my QuickTime. Maybe that's causing the issue there. Could be the QuickTime. Sorry about that. So I might have to cut that off a little bit. I don't want to go too overtime because I know Al has his Ask Me Anything coming up soon. So I'll take 5 minutes for questions, and then I'll be doing this class again next week. So I will make sure I have a little bit more time available to do some more hands-on stuff, because I know I didn't like that my screen was blurry if you can't see it. Okay, so does anybody have any questions now? I'll take some questions.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I was saying that I set up smart plans for myself to send to myself to test to see what they're coming out like and how they look, but I'm not getting them.
So are you having it, which, is it sending to your email? Is that where you're trying to get it to?
Yes, isn't that how, that's the only place, right? Or well, I guess you could do text and stuff, but yes, I'm sending it
Yeah.
to email. Unless there's a setting I haven't checked or something that I should have checked.
Yeah, I might have to test it out myself and try sending
Okay.
myself one. And then if I get the same error, I can look into it a little bit more.
Okay.
Chris,
Yes.
it's Rhoda. Listen, where you have on your consumer screen, I built 2 guides, a seller guide and a buyer guide.
Yeah.
And you have the list of things. I have nothing after I did that. So yeah, I have those 2. When you go into your consumer, and I'm in my landing page, how do I get those guides to move over?
So the guides are only specific to the consumer app. So if
Okay.
you're trying to find them on your agent website, they don't appear there yet.
So how do I get these to go to the consumer?
So the consumer app, they're already connected with the app as soon as you save them. They might take a little while to refresh, but as far as I know, like anytime I add things within these guides, it's pretty much instant that they update. I might
Okay.
have to look at that with you.
Yeah, because I did this when you sent it out a couple months ago from your video, and I couldn't get anything to come up. Like I wanted to send it to myself to see if it would go, and I don't have anything.
Okay, yeah, that's strange. All right, we'll have to look at that together. And yes, I will share those guides. Anybody who wants to have those guides shared with them, just let me know and I will send them to you.
Chris,
Yes.
I don't know how to raise my hand, so I'm just speaking out.
Okay.
I'm curious to know, is there some sort of coordination or communication between the Kelly guide, the Kelly app, and our command page? Is there communication going on, or they're 2 separate?
Good question. They are all interconnected. That's correct. So basically, when you're working within your Kelly app or you're working in command, they're all kind of working together. Consumer app updates are being pushed into your Kelly app as well. So when you're getting notifications for anything happening within your consumer app, for example, if I had signed up to your app, you would get a notification through your Kelly.
Okay.
You would also get a notification on your dashboard, because the dashboard now also shows leads, most recent leads captured.
Right.
And within the contact section as well, I do want to show this real quickly. Let me just move this over so you can see. You might notice that I have some contacts here with a little L and a checkbox. That checkbox means that they would have connected with me through the consumer app. So they would have downloaded and installed it, and now they're connected into my database. And you can see here, for example, with Natalie, She connected with my consumer app a few days ago. And I actually have access to just a little bit of information about herself. All right, guys. I do have this recorded. I think I saw Ant. He had posted a question about that. Ravit, that little L means it's a lead. Doesn't mean that they're a loser. They're captured as a lead, so they have a little L next to their name. One thing I just want to do, because I know Al has a call coming up soon. He had actually moved the room, so we do have a new link for that, and I do want to pull it up for you guys so you can see it. I'll put it in chat, because if you've been on his calls in the last few days, he's been getting pretty much a full house. So we did unlock that to have more people now. So let me just grab that link for you guys, and I'll post it in chat. It's going to be this one here. Let me stop sharing my screen. So here's the link. Oh, sorry, Anthony, I sent that to you. The link is here. Let me share my screen again. I'll post it up on the screen. Move this bar out of my way. There we go. Here's the link. And then I'll also just post it into the Gmail here.
Chris,
Yes.
it doesn't have to be this class, but even next class even. Can you touch base on when the best time is to use each app?
So you're in regards to command?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
so many different platforms that we're integrating here.
I can do more of like an overview if that would be helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll put that on the calendar for next week. This coming Monday, I'm actually going to be doing a listing presentation class, how you can build out your listing presentations. And that's going to be at 2 p.m. So that we're just going to finalize all that this week. This is the Zoom link here. Sorry if you can see it.
Yep.
The Zoom room is 992-428-3861. That's the ID. I posted it in chat so you can see that. And he's probably going to be getting started in just a little bit. And it looks like some people already dropped off, so I'm guessing they're already in there. Again, here's the link for that. Yesterday's chat, they said they would share the auto insurance template. I didn't get it. Will it be sent? Who was that from Kathy?
I think it was Kathy.
I'll follow up with Eileen about that. Thanks. Cool. And then anybody who wants to just shoot me a quick email for that guide that I have, I just posted it in chat as well. Please send me an email, and I'll make sure I get you those guide templates, and I will create a short video so you know how to do them. Awesome. All right, thanks guys. This was great. And thanks for stopping in as always. Let me just stop sharing my screen.
Have a nice weekend.